event.
Perfect. So really very excited that we have the opportunity to collaborate with Startup Unidos and this awesome opportunity to really talk about entrepreneurship and STEM in Nogales. I was fortunate to have a trip with a couple of our collaborators, Carla, who's on here, along with Stephanie, and really was excited about so much potential that there is in the area of Nogales, just with all the different advanced manufacturing organizations and really kind of a community really looking to build around innovation and ideas. And as we know, a lot of these ideas really focus around science, technology, engineering, and math related innovations. And so what you're doing with this focus about thinking about entrepreneurship and how it solves, social challenges, how do you really better your community? All these different ideas are going to have something related to STEM. And so we're excited to be part of the conversation and so happy that Startup Unidos really sees the connection and importance of doing so. And so we're really appreciative to be part of this effort, really humbled by the awesome program that Samantha and Stephanie and the team put together for you in terms of what, kind of pulls together the connection between STEM and innovation and what you can really do in your region. So thank you very much for the excitement and look forward to the session today.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. And before we get started with our program for today, I'm just going to let you know how today is going to be looking like. So we have our keynote session by the Ranger Cam Juarez, and then we're going to have a panel by the Chief Science Officers. Next up, we're going to have a workshop that's called STEM and Entrepreneurship, Becoming a Change Maker, and that's by the soon-to-be Dr. Lane Years. Then we're going to have 2 time to fail sessions, and that's just going to be entrepreneurs talking about how they have failed throughout their entrepreneurship life and how that's helped them grow. And finally, we're going to have a small networking session. So before any sessions get started, I'm just going to introduce you our amazing keynote speaker. His name, as I already told you, is Cam Juarez. He's a park ranger at Saguaro National Park in Tucson, and he comes from Latin roots. He runs the Next Generation Ranger program, which specifically recruits young people of color to get involved in environmental careers. So, Cam, whenever you want, we're ready for you.
Okay, can you guys hear me and see me okay?
Yes.
Okay, muy buenas tardes, good afternoon. It's so funny. I had this whole thing planned for this afternoon from my office where I have incredible Wi-Fi. And lo and behold, we got word late yesterday that our van that I'll show you momentarily is our mobile visitor center, which is part of the strategy that I developed coming into the Park Service. Anyway, so the mobile visitor center, or we like to call it La Tortuga, is a big F-350 transit van. It's a cargo van, much like the ones that you see UPS or Amazon using. And so we have converted that into a statement that invites everyone, todo el mundo, to Saguaro National Park. And so we went to go pick it up. We started loading it. We're like, oh, I'll have time to get home, get into uniform, and then get on the call. But I think that is the main theme of the work that I'm doing, is that it's always work. We're always on, and we're always working, and we're always doing something to connect the community. So I am talking to you from the lavish living room of my intern, who generously offered his space for me to sit down and not have to be in the van while we were driving to our next location. So I'll start by talking a little bit about my background and how I got to become a National Park Ranger, and then I'll jump into some of the work that we're doing, and lastly I'll talk a little bit about some of the findings that we've come to with the work for the last 6.5 years. So again, mi nombre is Cam Juarez. My name is Cam Juarez. My pronouns are he, him, él. And I am the son of migrant farm workers, originally from Michoacán, Mexico, that immigrated to the States in the late 60s, and my mom became a citizen in the early 80s, And then I went on to go to school in California and then ultimately back in Arizona, graduating high school in Yuma, Arizona, and then moving on to Pima Community College and the University of Arizona here in Tucson, starting back in 1991. I got my undergrad degrees in Chicano Studies, Mexican American Studies, and political science. And then I got my master's degrees, my master's degree, I should say, in urban planning with a focus on community engagement. That led me to work with Pima County for about 15 years, working as a project manager, specifically in a bond funded program called Neighborhood Reinvestment. And the program was specifically about equitably distributing county bond dollars in underrepresented communities, underserved communities, mostly lower income, mostly people of color, mostly Latino. And that was for Pima County District 5. And I did that for 15 years, running about $9 million worth of projects. And that led me to want to get a master's degree in urban planning. And ultimately, it led me to running for office. I was on the Tucson Unified School District governing board, which at the time was struggling quite a bit with a lot of what we're seeing these days in terms of talking about ethnic studies and in terms of talking about our history that sometimes is challenging to cope with. So in my position as a park ranger working for Saguaro, I met the superintendent of Saguaro National Park. I'm sorry, my position as a board member, I got to meet the superintendent, and that position allowed me a lot of networking opportunities and talking to different people and getting an understanding of what the needs were in our community. So we got to a point where we recognized the park and myself and the people doing this work that the park needed some support in connecting with Latino audiences, specifically Latino audiences in Tucson, because Tucson, as many of you know, is about 46% Latino. And that can be Mexicano, that can be first generation, second, third, fourth, fifth, or that can be Centro Americano or people from the Caribbean. We have a lot of different folks from different parts of Spanish-speaking countries. And then we have people that don't speak Spanish, but are still identify as Latino or Hispanic. But the one commonality that we have as a non-monolithic community is that we all recreate, and we all recreate differently. And we all recreate using different opportunities in different locations. And so what we came to find out was that of the amount of visitation that we have this year, even with the pandemic still kind of in a rearview mirror, we will have, by the end of our year, we will have seen close to 1.5 million visitors at Saguaro National Park. And Saguaro is 2 districts, about 94,000 acres. And we have 2 districts, one on the east side of Tucson and one on the west side of Tucson. And we see people from all over the world. But what we don't see are a lot of visitors, Latino visitors from Tucson, the Tucson metropolitan area. We don't see a lot of visitors from Mexico, whether that's Nogales, Hermosillo, anywhere in Sonora or Sinaloa or anywhere down south, further than that. And that's a big question. Like, why don't we see more gente de Mexico? And so as we started moving forward, we started doing some research. I have a great partnership with the University of Arizona's College of Public Health and College of Education and College of Natural Sciences. And so all of those folks basically have done some research for us, academic research. And most of the things they're pointing to are the list of the growing list of barriers that keep people from coming to the park to recreate. So what does Saguaro National Park offer that other places in town do not? Some of the more popular areas to recreate are Tumamoc Hill, which belongs to the University of Arizona. And originally it was a place, the birthplace of Tucson, as it's often referred to. And the people that have been here for time immemorial are the Tohono O'odham people. They are the ancestors of the Hohokam people that were here thousands of years ago. And so the traditions, a lot of the way that these communities still interact, and some of the traditions that they continue to follow date back directly to the Hohokam. So why is all this important? Well, the fact is that we're at a point in our history, and not just our country's history, but in our world's history, that climate change has gotten to, we're almost at the point where we won't be able to turn around. Climate change wasn't something that was easily talked about in the previous administration, but this administration has really embraced talking about what we can do as a national park to help support efforts to mitigate or try to adjust to some of the changes that are happening. So Saguaro National Park is a place of research. Saguaro National Park is, of course, a place of recreation and a place of exploration. But really, it's also a place donde hay conexiones, donde hay creatividad, donde hay todo tipo de oportunidad de aprendizaje, pero también hay oportunidades de andar en áreas silvestres, in untouched wilderness areas. And those untouched wilderness areas are what separates us from, say, Tumamoc Hill, which is one of the more popular locations in town to recreate outdoors. We also are surrounded by the Sky Islands. These are mountains that surround the metropolitan area of Tucson and the central core of Pima County. But these are areas that go down southeast as well and southwest, but also up north, all around Tucson. And so these are beautiful areas when one can connect with nature and with wilderness and be alone and not be near another human being if that's their choosing for hours or days. And many miles in between. We also have the Anza Trail that runs through our national park's east side. On the west side, we have a lot of connections to Padre Quino, who connected all the way down south into Mexico. And so there's a lot of opportunity to talk about different stories that the park still isn't talking about, but that we're hoping to move in the direction of incorporating. We have often heard that the national parks here in the United States have a problem with deferred maintenance. $12 billion of projects that have continuously been pushed along because there's no funding or there's minimal funding. But I think to quote one of our leaders in the National Park Service, the Park Service doesn't just have a problem with deferred maintenance. We have a problem with deferred storytelling. There's this notion that the National Park Service was all about beautiful landscapes and mountains and wilderness. And then it became a place of protecting particular species. But then during the 60s, we started turning to telling America's stories. Some stories are these stories that we want to talk about, stories about how this country came to be. But there's oftentimes stories within that aren't told. We don't talk a lot about, the indigenous peoples that were pushed off these lands, or the indigenous peoples that were killed on some of these lands. We also started talking about, our history, our country's history, and that's when we started telling stories about the civil rights. We started telling stories about Jim Crow. We started telling stories about things that this country did not do great, did not do right. And we started telling these stories in a way to continuously learn about how to avoid those mistakes moving forward. And so when I first really thought about the national parks, I was a young kid living in Madera, California, near Fresno, and going to Yosemite. But I never really thought about it the same way my Anglo brethren did. I didn't think about it as a family tradition, where everybody hopped in to the local, bus, or they got together and we caravanned in our station wagons. We actually, would go just for a day, usually on my birthday. And so we never thought about it as a national park. We just thought about it as an outdoor place, a green place, a place like the local metropolitan parks. We, like many people in this community, that now know the difference between a metropolitan park and a county park, a state park, or a national park. And so now that we understand the difference, we want to continue to share that knowledge with other people. So I'll go backwards a little bit, and then I'll move forward again. But my mom, as I mentioned, was a farm worker, and so was my dad, and my brothers and sisters who had immigrated from Mexico, along with my mom and dad, who were older than me, all worked in the fields harvesting different kinds of fruits and vegetables. And then my sister and I were born in the States, and we became part of that workforce. On the weekends when we weren't in school, we would join my family doing that work. And as I grew older, I kept asking my mom, why was I born this way? And by this way, I mean I was born with a physical disability and with a defect in my heart that caused a lot of surgeries. And ultimately, when I got to high school and shortly after I graduated from high school, I got involved with a lot of the work that was being done with the campesinos, with the United Farm Workers and Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta. And it was then that I learned that my mom had been exposed to herbicides and pesticides when she was pregnant with me. And as I became part of a class action lawsuit and did a lot of work around genetics and whatnot, I really, at that point is when I realized that I was an environmentalist. I didn't identify as an environmentalist for a long time, but now I identify also as a conservationist, and a conservationist that is helping to protect not just our national park, but it's helping to create a model of relevancy, diversity, and inclusion. So what I mean by that is making sure that our parks, the stories that we're telling at our parks, our activities, the languages that we use to interpret these stories are accessible to our communities here. Here in Tucson, with 46% Latinos, we definitely want to be able to speak Spanish. Porque si no les podemos hablar en español, ¿cómo les vamos a poder contar las historias de estos lugares? O cuáles son los minerales que están en estas áreas, o cuáles son todo tipo de cosas que tenemos que sean colecciones, partes de área cultural o área natural que estamos tratando de proteger. We have, over 300, if not more than that, probably closer to thousands of petroglyphs and pictograms throughout the park grounds that within the boundaries. And we have over 300 archaeological sites on the east side of the park. Most people think most of our archaeological sites are on the west side, but the fact is a lot of people in Tucson don't know, because we haven't found a way to appropriately tell those stories. And so that's the work that I was hired to do. Darla, the superintendent, who saw something in me and said, you can help bring those communities to the park. The staff that support the work that we do, they say to us all the time, you can help connect with our communities with the park, and the park with those communities. So in a sense, the themes of relevancy, diversity, and inclusion are not just something that we talk about within the park, but we're actually putting into action. So I'll talk about a few things that we do. We started with outreach. Our outreach at the park was minimal when I got there. It wasn't non-existent. It just wasn't reaching the amount of people that we're able to reach now. And that's because the park was courageous enough to make the decision to hire a permanent position that was constantly concerning himself with ensuring that this arrowhead was recognized all over our city, and was recognized whether we were talking in English o estuviéramos hablando en español, or we were working with refugee communities or African-American communities. It didn't matter who we were talking to. What we wanted them to understand was that we know that you recreate, we know that you recreate differently, and we know that we need to do a better job of connecting with those communities. And so some of the things that we do, I'll give you some statistics to start off with. But when we started this project back in 2015, 2016, we came across the understanding that we were only talking to a few hundred people a year outside of our environmental education programs. These are programs that deal with field trips with students and stuff like that. But our adults, our community spaces that we were connecting with, like I said, we were doing a few events a year. Not to say that it wasn't important, but we just weren't, we didn't have the bandwidth to do more. So whatever we were doing was just not enough to create that momentum that we needed. So as we started focusing more activity, we focused first and foremost on partnerships. We can't do anything without partnerships. I think everybody here on this call would agree. Secondly, we started working with youth organizations. Thirdly, we started working with partners that would help us with volunteers. So one of the first conversations I had was with Dr. Martha Monroy with the College of Public Health. And we set up a program that every spring and winter semester, she would provide me the opportunity, or would provide the students the opportunity to volunteer a minimum of 15 hours, which would give them extra credit on their final grade. So of course we get a lot of volunteers at the end of the semesters, but normally we will see about 100 to 150 volunteers come through the program a year. And in addition to that, she also provided us graduate students that would help us with research questions. Why aren't people coming to the park? What are things that we could do for people with mobility issues? Different things like that, different questions that we were trying to address that we as a national park aren't allowed to ask regularly. So that was, the first stage. The second stage was understanding what were the tools that we had to play with. And some of those tools were pretty minimal. And so I said, well, we need an investment from our partners. And so the Friends of Saguaro National Park, our friends group, they are a group of nonprofit folks. It's a nonprofit organization, but a group of people that are concerned with ensuring that the park gets what it needs. And most national park units can get a lot of resources, but some of them don't. And so these friends group are super important in ensuring that our communities are getting what they need. And so the Friends of Saguaro National Park will not only provide an allocation annually to us to buy stuff that we use throughout the year, but they'll also help to pay for certain equipment that we can't buy via our base budget. In addition to that, we also had the support of Western National Parks Association, which is our cooperative partner. And what they do is they run the stores inside of our visitor centers. They sell the T-shirts and the stickers and all the stuff that you buy when you go into a visitor center. So, do you mind horribly opening that for me, please? Thank you. I actually want to introduce Rayshawn. He's going to come in camera here for a quick second. But they also pay for our interns. And this is Rayshawn Ramon. Say hello. This is his house. So we're speaking from his place. So Rayshawn Ramon is one of our next generation rangers. And the next gen ranger is an opportunity for college students or people that have recently graduated from college, focusing on women and people of color, because the Park Service, of course, has an issue with representation. And so we're trying to level the playing field a little bit by helping to create professionals. And so the Next Gen program is a paid internship that we have here at Saguaro National Park. And that paid internship allows people that aren't as advantageous or as privileged as other people, people that have money to be able to volunteer and have their parents or their spouses support them while they volunteer their time in the park. These are paid internships that allow these students to continue going to school, but allow them to pay rent and have an apartment like the one I'm speaking from. And so it also helps them pay tuition. It's a livable wage. It's not a few bucks an hour. It's a nice amount of money. Of course, it could always be better, but it's more than what most internships pay. So in addition to that, we also give them what's called public land court credit, which is a hiring authority for opportunities that open up that are open to the public. So the other things that we do is we participate in a lot of events. We participate in about 40 events a year. from parades to kids festivals to Earth Day festivals to Latino Conservation Week to Native American Heritage Month, you name it. We work with pride organizations. We work with as many organizations as we can connect with, so that they understand that we're bringing the park to them, and we want to bring those communities back to the park whenever possible. But more importantly, our bottom line is we want to connect them to the ideals of conservation, of preserving these places, these natural places, for generations to come, but also for the generations that are here today. So that is the bulk of what we do. One of the things I do want to take an opportunity to do is show you one of the things that we were able to secure. This, boy, did I lose signal? I can't tell. Okay, there I am. Can you guys see me okay?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Try to get out of your apartment. It's like playing here, man. Cool. And we're almost up. Okay, I am gonna come out here because I want to actually show you one of the things that we do. The main thing that I think we can do is in our organization, in any organization, trying to raise awareness, whether it's here or del otro lado de la frontera. But the main thing that we can do is create awareness. And so this, we just picked up today. This is the F-350 van I was talking about. Sorry, a little loud out here. But this is the mobile visitor center, La Tortuga, we call it. And so we have artwork from a local muralist here. But this catches a lot of attention. This van carries all of our equipment. It's got sound, it's got lights, it's got the TV. We of course wanted to let people know that it doesn't matter if you're not, 100% mobile, traditionally mobile, but we are also, looking to make space for everyone at the park. It is a federal vehicle, but we also have TV screens here that we use for videos and for presentations. It's got an awning. We have a generator. But more importantly, we tell people in their own language that we're here to honor them and honor the land. What we have here is in English, of course, honor the people, honor the land. And then we have it in Yoeme, which is the language of the Pascoyaqui people. And then, of course, in Español, honra la gente, honra la tierra. And then in To'ono. So this van is specifically designed to catch the attention, not just of people while we're on the road, but also it's designed to carry information that we have at the park. So essentially, a lot of the experience in terms of learning that you'll get at the park, you can get right in your own community. So those are examples of what I want to talk about. We were lucky that we had a donor that provided us the funding, two different donors that provided the funding, Western National Parks Association and Friends of Saguaro National Park, that provided enough funding for us to be able to afford a vehicle like that. But that's pretty much what I wanted to speak with you today. I think in terms of creating, oh boy, I went blank again. There it is. In terms of creating opportunities for young people, I think the main thing that what we want to do is we want to create awareness. We want to be able to offer different programs. We want to be able to provide opportunities to young people to understand that the National Park Service could potentially be a career for them. Whenever we give presentations, what we talk about the most as it relates to STEM is that STEM is untapped by Latinos and by people of color. That we're under the 10 percentile of people that go into STEM fields. And a lot of the times when I hear research about why Latinos don't come to national parks, a lot of the time it's the cost, getting there, paying the fees to get in, and then paying the concession prices for different things that you purchase, while you're there. So a lot of people say it's cost, but a lot of people say it's, working class people don't have the financial opportunities to engage in recreation. So if you engage in a STEM career at an early age and you're exposed to conservation at an early age, and then you follow a career in STEM, that will give you the resources to break that cycle, the cycle that keeps us from engaging not only in nature, but recreating. And it gives you the opportunity to create, the familial wealth for your kids to go to college and your kids to potentially learn about natural resources and environmental careers, which of course is a double thing because they have a career, tienen una carrera, they make decent money, and then they also are participating in mitigating the impacts of climate change. So I think part of that is just inspiring people to make the changes. And that's what I think I do well, is try to inspire people to connect with this. And so I'll leave you with that. I know you guys are going to have a great conference, but the aspect of technology is we have Zoom, we have different ways of communicating this information. We have a lot of technology on that van, from the TVs to the audio to staff that speaks multiple languages. I think that there is a lot of opportunity in bridging all of those things together to get people to understand that conservation isn't about a bunch of dirty hippies anymore. It is about protecting our Madre Tierra, and partnering with organizations that want to do the same. Organizations like Corazón Latino, organizations like Latino Outdoors, organizations like Chicanos por la Causa. There's a lot of organizations here. Even the Consul is concerned with partnering with organizations that are continuing to promote health and conservation. Those two things can be done, and not just at Saguaro National Park. They can be done in any outdoor opportunity. It can be done in classrooms. Wherever we can talk about it, we can learn about it. And wherever we can learn about it, we can plan to engage with it. So, con eso los voy a dejar, and voy a dejar unos minutos para preguntas, pero con eso los dejo.
Hi, Cam. Thank you so much for everything that you just shared with us. I don't know if anybody from the audience has any questions that they would like to ask. We do have like 3 minutes left for that. You can either type it on the chat, or you can unmute yourself and just ask the question. But thank you so much for your time and all of your knowledge and everything that you have just shared with us. It was very extremely useful and helpful and very wide opening. Oh, we have a question in the chat. You can go ahead.
Sure, I would. That question is always is an interesting one. Before I answer it, I'll just say tomorrow, if you're in the Tucson area, we're going to be at the El Pueblo Neighborhood Center at 9 a.m. for El Día de la Niñez festival that's happening there, that's being hosted by Vice Mayor Elaine Santa Cruz, and one of the special guests that she'll have is Mayor Regina Romero. Two amazing people, amazing local leaders that are really just doing a lot for conservation, and a lot of for climate change, and just equitable distribution of resources. I really admire both of them. And so if you can, drop by and see what we do. But I would give myself the advice of a work-life balance. This work is unending. We're always working, even when I'm not in uniform, even when I'm at home, I'm answering questions and email. I think the idea is to build a team that knows as much as you do, tries as much as you do, and works as hard as you do. And if you have a team like that, and you have partners, and you have, whether they're education partners or financial partners, I think if everyone is on the same page about the ethics that we use to do the work that we do, but also the motivation that keeps us going, I think that means that you have more time to spend with family, more time to take care of yourself, more time to think of more ideas to better do the work that we do. But I would say spend more time thinking about building the structure, so that when you get to the top, you're not up there by yourself. You're there with a whole team of people and partners. So that's the advice I would give myself, is build up a partnership a lot earlier, because a lot of this was building from the ground up.
Thank you so much, Cam. And once again, thank you so much for all of your time, your knowledge, and everything that you have to share with us.